Thank you, Mr. President and members. Thank you very much for allowing me to take a couple minutes tonight and just give a quick update on where we are with our COVID-19 nightmare, I guess you could call it. It's been almost a year now, and we've all been attacking it together throughout the world, throughout the city, and so we still continue to do the testing down at New England Sports Center. We're down to about a third of what we were doing before, but they're still down there on a daily basis. They're not going to be down there for when snow is in the forecast. They skip the day, but for the most part, they're there every day, and they're still testing on a regular basis. Our positivity rate over the last 14 days has dropped to just about 7%, and we're down to about 140, approximately 140 cases at this point. So we're really moving in the right direction. It's come a long way, but we're getting back down where it's been controllable. This is the lowest we've been since around the Thanksgiving holiday. So we're still in that mode, but we're moving over to the vaccine mode because obviously everyone's anxious to get the vaccines, and what we've seen for a rollout from Boston has not been good. Been very, very frustrated with the number of vaccines that have been available to us. I know there's announcements every day about new locations, and I think Councilor Landers and former Councilor Clancy went through the process and were set up an appointment and were actually successful, but had to go out of town, which doesn't make sense to me because we have a hospital that's receiving about 100 vaccines a day, and they're in the state system. So we have people coming to Marlborough at the hospital with a very limited supply from all over the state to get vaccinated. And then we have the people in Marlborough that are going through the same system and being told they have to go elsewhere. We've actually walked a couple people through the process just to find out how easy it is, and with the phone number, it worked pretty well. We were successful, but there were 3 or 4 phone calls needed to set up one appointment for a couple of our senior citizens in the city. But we wanted to make sure we went through the process, so if people called us and asked us questions, we would have those answers. So at this time, phase 1 is just about done for everyone that wanted the vaccine in the city. All our first responders are completed, and actually we're going through this week, and there were a few done prior to this, but this week they'll be receiving their second shots. I believe we have 380 that will be rolling out this week for first responders for their second shots. We also have gotten all our senior housing complexes done. All 3 of the public housing and Academy Knoll has been completed for everyone that wanted to get the shot. And different locations, they're running different percentages. So although we haven't hit 100%, I think they're running, I think some of the locations were like 70–75% of the people wanted the shot. So the senior housing is done. All our assisted living facilities in the city are done. With the assistance of CVS and Walgreens and Bouvier's Pharmacy and our own health department, we were able to get all of them completed. And we're starting our first clinic this week on Wednesday down at the senior center. It was probably an hour or 2 for us to completely fill up the appointments we had. We only have about 180 vaccines to give out that day. We've kind of grabbed all we could, but we're on an allotment of 100 vaccines a week, which is extremely disappointing. Again, just very, very frustrating, and I continue to let everyone in Boston know how frustrated I am, and some of you would see me when I get a little frustrated. So some of the conversations haven't gone well, but my feeling is I'm going to demand what I can for the city of Marlborough. Again, we're starting our vaccines this week at the clinic. The Council on Aging group and Trish Pope and her team have kind of transferred into a mode of being a data bank, a phone bank, to help our seniors in registering, to get it all set up, so when they walk in there, they're all registered and ready to go. So they've turned their staff into a phone bank down there, and that's working pretty well. We're being very particular about when you can come down and when you can go in the building. You know, you can't show up an hour in advance and just sit there. So we're going to be very restrictive about that. I believe it's 10 minutes before your appointment. Please show up. You're not getting in the building till your appointment is actually up. So again, they're gonna try to keep this on a pretty regulated process, and make sure we get everyone done. If someone tries to get down there that is not 75 years of age or a first responder, they will not get a shot. I talked to the hospital today. They've had a lot of that. Even though the state allows you to register, it doesn't stop you. There is a signature there that says you're signing it under the penalties of perjury. Some forgot to read that clause, and they're showing up at the hospital, and the hospital is not letting them have a shot. They're saying, come back when it's your time. So, and we have to do that. Otherwise, we're never going to get through our population. So we're taking people over 75 that are Marlborough residents. It's as simple as that. It's pretty black and white, and we're going to try to hold to that because, like I said, we're very limited. If we continue to get the 100 dosages a week, we're looking at 7.5 years to get the whole city vaccinated. So I can tell you that's not going to happen, but the way it is now, talking to the Lieutenant Governor the other night, we were at, I believe, 86 or 87,000 doses throughout the state that the state was getting to distribute out, and that's been increased to just over 100,000, which didn't impress me too much when we're talking about the population we have. So we're just going to keep pounding the table and hopefully very shortly start getting a reasonable supply. I know that the governor's talked about the rollout at these mega sites. Mega sites don't work. The logistics of it does not work. Having people come from all over the state when we have a hospital here does not work. People driving to Gillette Stadium does not work. So we can open all the sites we want, but I think it's much better with more general locations, but specific to different communities, so we can organize it and get our people vaccinated. So with that, I want to thank you very much for your time, and I'll answer any questions that, I'll try to answer any questions that I have.
Councilor Orr.
Mr. President. Yes, thank you, Mr. President. Mr. Mayor, as you just noted, 100 doses per day or per week, that's just not enough, obviously, for our city. But at the same time, is this the incentive of the state to send people to these mega sites, and why can't Marlborough consider a mega site?
Well, with such a limited supply, the mega sites are running out also. So if we opened up a mega site in Marlborough, and first of all, we'd have to find the location for this because it's a lot harder than setting up a testing site because they have to get out of their car and actually get people comfortable to take the shot. But if we were to do that, it's not going to be regulated to just Marlborough or Marlborough area residents. Again, we'll be taking people from all over the state, and that's not the intent of this. I need to get 40,000 people vaccinated through the first and the second dose as quickly as possible. That's my goal.
And on that note, Mr. Mayor, as you said, we got 40,000 people in Marlborough. Do we have the plans in place to run an emergency dispensing site for 40,000 people?
I have, the last call I was on with the Lieutenant Governor, there were different communities talking about needing help, needing a plan. I just sent her a message immediately and says, all I want is vaccines. We have the infrastructure in place, we have a plan in place, we need vaccines. So if they send me 5,000 next week, I promise you we're going to get those on the street. We're not anticipating that. Like I said, the hospital itself is limited to 100 a day. 100 a day. It's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous that we're talking about this. Bouvier's Pharmacy is helping us out because they've been getting some. And then we have a dermatologist in the city that ended up with some vaccines and called to see if he could help us. It's like, if you have them, we'll use them. So we have the infrastructure in place to cover any vaccines they're going to send our way.
Well, thank you, Mr. Mayor. That's assuring. And you said it's assuring too to know we do have that private-public relationship with some of our pharmacies. So that's another good opportunity for Marlborough to get the vaccine out. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Orem. Councilor Perlman.
Thank you, Mr. President, and thank you, Mr. Mayor, for sharing that. I'm sure many people are eagerly, awaiting this information, and I appreciate you sharing it with the state about our need to get more vaccinations here in the community. I'm curious, just for anyone watching, if you could just reiterate the process. So when more slots are available, where people can go to get that information. I know you mentioned 100 vaccinations a week, and that the senior center has been helping out. I know I've been getting a lot of calls, so I would love to just know where to direct people moving forward, and anyone who's watching, that they're able to have that information as well. Thank you.
Yeah, they can simply go to the Board of Health website. If you go on the city website, there's a link there that brings you right into the Board of Health website. If you have issues as far as the computer goes or don't have access to a computer, you can simply call down the senior center and they will take care of you. So a phone call to the senior center or go on the website. We want this to be as simple as possible. And this process needs to really get better, a lot better, before the next group in phase 2, because the next group in phase 2 is big. And they better start giving us more than 100 doses a week.
All set, Councilor Perlman?
Yes, thank you very much, and thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Councilor Landers.
Mr. President, thank you. I just want to mention, Mr. Mayor, I think people are very understanding, and I think between the first responders I've spoken to, the people that live at 240 Main and Pleasant Street, I mean, there's all kinds of compliments out there that we're doing the very best that we can considering the limited supply. So I myself, I did go out of town. It's only that, last week, but you did get a big push today. One of my closest relatives, she called the Board of Health today, and I believe she's on for Wednesday. So that's the best PR you can have, because she'll tell the world, and the ones she doesn't tell, I'll tell. But I think they realize that, it's not on our level. It's a couple steps up. And, but you have received, I think, a lot of pats on the back, the setting up the clinics out there. Now you're doing with the vaccines, the first responders, and the the seniors that are in the homes. And let's face it, that's where we needed it. I mean, that's where a lot of our early sick people, and we lost quite a few out there. So I think you guys will be ready. I know you will, our Board of Health and your office, that when the state finally comes across, and maybe it filters down from the federal government, I guess I bet if we gave you 5,000, you'd go nonstop.
Well,
You'd probably put your tax computer away for a couple of weeks and get it done. But good luck. Keep up the good work. I think.
Well, John Garside and his team's done a great job down there, and they continue to do a good job. And we've had the help from volunteers and from the nurses at the schools, so we're ready to go.
Yeah,
He's actually had a lot of the students and the nurses from Assabet come over, the ones that have been trained and are allowed to give the shot. So we have the team in place. We're ready to go. But please tell her not to talk to more than 100 people, though, when she's spreading the word. So we got to keep it limited.
She will. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Landers. Any other councilors? Councilor Doucette.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. And Mayor, again, thanks for the work for everyone all the work that everyone's doing in this incredible time. You said earlier that the testing that's done at New England Sports Center is lower than it was before. Is that because demand is down, or the window of, the hours are different or something like that?
Oh, yeah, no, the demand is way down. I mean, they still have a lot of cars going through, 600 cars. But we were up, I think they hit 1,900 one day.
How long ago was that?
What's that?
How long ago was that?
Well, it was around the holiday time,
Yeah.
but still, we're doing over 500 a day, so there's still a lot of cars, but they're getting through. The 2-hour, 3-hour wait isn't there any longer, so, that's the good news. But we need to move on to the next phase, which is the vaccines.
Right, okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilor Doucette. Anyone else? Anyone else? Again, Mr. Mayor, I thank you, and I would encourage, folks listening, the vaccines, they're being produced. It's a little challenging that we don't have them right now, but they will be coming. And the Board of Health, they've done a nice job getting ready, and, I look forward to having enough vaccines to start rolling this out on a more expedited basis when they are available. So thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Thank you very much.